And what are the services provided by the university in these areas, like placements or research opportunities?
For Johns Hopkins, there's like a separate portal for applying to the on-campus jobs, and that is quite like streamlined and it makes the process quite easier. Apart from that, if you have to apply to a research position or so, you end up mailing the professors or the staff working in a research team personally asking for sharing your interest and enthusiasm in it. But I think I got my job mostly because I applied through the university portal for on-campus jobs, and then I wrote quite a follow-up emails and like a thank you letter and everything. That's what got me the part-time job.
Okay. So Sakshi, how do you plan to address the stigma surrounding mental health in your future career?
I think the first step is to like have conversations, uh, especially I think given in Indian context, I think just to hear what people feel about mental health and how their misconceptions can be changed is the first step. So listening and then having conversations and breaking all the misconceptions is the first step to uh, destigmatizing mental health. Apart from that, uh, proving the legitimacy of the field and of the mental health concerns and how not to ignore mental health concerns, I think would be few of the initial steps.
Okay, what is the difference that you have noticed for mental health awareness between the Indians and the US citizens?
Uh, like I said, like stigma first
Okay, so
thing.
is there anything that you want to give light onto?
Yeah, sure. I think except for stigma, there's also like uh, there are not a lot of mental health professionals in India and not a lot of services. Like the ratio is quite like skewed in India, but in US, there's a lot of mental health professionals and there's a lot of job opportunities and a good job prospects for mental health professionals. So a lot of people do want to take up that field, but in India, but due to like structural and due to systemic barriers, it's quite difficult. Apart from that, India being like a developing country, we have a lot of people who come from a rural background or so. So having mental health services in native languages, in like local languages, is very important. But when you are taught psychology or mental health in English, you tend to give services in English itself, which is not very accessible to people of all the areas. So yeah.
Yes. Then how, this is very, I would like to ask you this. How do you prioritize self-care and well-being while studying mental health, like considering the emotionally demanding nature of this field?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I think I highly prioritize having like good social group and good sense of support. I have like during my tough times, I have had my family with me all the time. Except for that, I've had friends. I also took therapy in my first semester, so that has also helped me. Apart from that, I journal every day, so that really helps me in to be in touch with my emotions and to be in touch with my thoughts. So that really helps in like just being grounded. So yeah.
Okay, and are there any particular areas of psychology or mental health that you are particularly passionate about, and how do you plan to specialize in those areas during your studies or in near future?
I really want to work with people of background, especially women from different background. Except for that, I also want to work with older population because I feel like their mental health is quite taken for granted. Like older people are uh, with aging, people just take it for granted that sadness comes with it, but that shouldn't be the case. And yeah, so to get experience in both of these sections of society, I think taking up internships or volunteering is the only way I could go for forward. So yeah, I hopefully I get that.
Okay, and can you share any example of a particularly rewarding experience or a success story from your work or experience or studies as a student?
I think recently when I gave a lecture on study career in psychology, I did not expect like a lot of people would turn up, but there were a lot of people attending it, and people had a lot of like queries and questions and enthusiasm and curiosity about the field. And a lot of people did approach me after the session, and that was quite rewarding that people do have an interest in pursuing a career in psychology. So, yeah.
Okay. So Sakshi, we all know that mental health today is the topmost priority that should be taken care of and the one which is being neglected the most. So I would like to ask you what strategies have you learned and you recommend for effectively communicating with and supporting individuals who may be experiencing a mental health issue, and what are some practices that an individual should do for taking care of their own mental health?
Yeah. So for the first part of the question, people who are suffering from any mental health issues or distresses, I think listening or just being there with them is the biggest and the first part to support them. So being a listener, being an empathetic listener, and validating their emotions, because we do tend to have this approach or instinct to whenever somebody shares or like their difficult emotions, we tend to like trivialize it, like, oh, it's not a big deal, you don't have to overreact, or you don't have to like be bothered about it so much. So if not doing that, instead of just validating their experiences and being there for them, being able to listen to them is the first step to support them, except for them encouraging them to go to therapy if the concerns are really extreme and if they want to work on it. So I think encouraging them to go to therapy, or like even helping them out scheduling therapy appointments or so, can really help them, because when you are in an suffering from a mental health issue or like mental distress or so, it's very tough to like taking proactive steps or to find a solution or so. It's just like everything is very draining and very energy consuming. So like helping them out and like all these little tasks really help with to support people who have mental health issues. And the second part of the question, like what can you do to keep your mental health intact? I think mental health comes from a very like biopsychosocial model where you work on your biology, your social environment, and your psychological well-being. So like having good diet or so, or having like good exercise or so really helps. Except for that, socially having I personally believe that even though we are right now in the world where we are constantly on devices and don't have a lot of people around with us, but having like few, at least few connections which you can rely on is really important. Except for that, psychologically, if you being in touch with your emotions and being able to like accept those emotions really helps you just like understand your thoughts and your emotions a little better than just like not invalidating it or like ignoring it at all. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. Is there any additional advice to sum this interview up that you would like to give to the students who are considering pursuing their master's degree in mental health counseling in the US?
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to work on yourself, uh, a lot of different like the majority information you get on the internet is about uh, people pursuing masters in engineering or an MBA abroad. So you'll have to do your own set of research, your own set of like you have to put in a lot of efforts to figure out what universities or what courses you want to take up. You'll have to talk to a lot of people as well. So it would be wholly your job, and I don't think like you would get like a good set of like universities just at your hand, because there's not a lot of people who want to take up a master's in mental health field. So that's one thing. Apart from that, working on your CV, just except for your academic courses, you'll have to do a lot of like different things, uh, like internships or working in research or volunteering. Like do everything to make your CV strong. That would be my other piece of suggestion. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. That's it for today's interview. Thank you for joining us and helping our students in so many ways and so many questions.